This is Voices in the Game. We want to send a special thank you to all of you for tuning in for another episode. And boy, oh boy, I cannot wait to get our conversation started with today's guest. He is originally from the United Kingdom, but he made his way over to the United States, settling in Pittsburgh, and he is the head coach of Penn State New Kensington men's soccer. He is my good friend, Mark Duffield. Mark, I cannot wait to get our conversation started. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, no, CD, thank you very much for having me. It's great to see you again, mate.
Oh, yes, you as well, Mark. And before we start, for all of our loyal listeners and also maybe some new listeners as well, we want to send a special thank you to all of you for tuning into Voices of in the Game all summer long. And make sure to like and subscribe so you can get caught up on every episode of Voices in the Game. So, Mark, let's get our conversation started. So, where did your love of soccer first begin as a boy growing up in England?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as long as I can remember, in England, it's like American football over here. Do you know what I mean? As soon as you're born, it's kind of something you're kind of thrust with, shall we say? And for me, I mean, I'm aging myself here a little bit, but the first thing I kind of remember is a 1990 World Cup in Italy. Very little bits of it I remember, but that's the sort of age when I started playing. I played for a team called Charles United at like five years old or so. So that's when all my soccer journey started.
Where did you learn those fundamentals, Mark, when you started playing? And how was it like if you could remember playing for the first time?
I mean, as far as I can remember, so the way it started was a friend of mine, his dad was the coach. He was a year older than me, so I played a year up, and that's how I got into that team. And from an early age, I'm 6'4" now, and I was tall for my age there, and I used to like going on the field, but goalkeeping was always a passion of mine. And I remember when I played my first tournament, I was like 8 years old, playing up against the 10-year-olds, and yeah, it's a great experience. And in England, it was a lot of parent-led training sessions, not much goalkeeping training at the time. So for me, it was a lot of watching the games and picking up bits and pieces from keepers I saw on TV.
Where did you find your first inspiration, Mark, to wanting to be a goalkeeper?
Oh, easy. Peter Schmeichel. So Peter Schmeichel is for me is the best goalie of all time. Anyone of my sort of age who's a soccer fan probably know Peter Schmeichel. I'm the same age of his son. His son's plays for, I think, Celtic right now. But yeah, watching him, he came over to England about 1995. He signed, maybe like 94, 95. He signed for, Man United. And I just kind of was amazed by this guy, like big lad, blonde hair, Danish guy, loud, organized his backline. But I tell you what, he could pull off some of the best saves ever. And I used to go in the back garden and try and replicate some of his saves. So he was a big hero of mine.
And what are some of your favorite memories, Mark, if you could remember playing soccer growing up?
I mean, for me growing up, it was playing with my friends. I used to always play like five-a-side tournaments. So in the summer, you'll go around different spots and play these tournaments. And that's where I had my first tournament at a place called North Mundham, which is where my nan lived and my dad grew up. And that's where I got just people noticed I was a half decent goalkeeper at this tournament. And I got some pictures here at home of me in the goal and my mum and dad standing behind the goal. And that kind of went through from the age of like 7, 8 all the way up until I played in my 20s. My mum and dad would be behind the goal. Just like happy memories of just like playing with friends. And obviously through soccer you get to travel as well, whether it's locally and further afield, and just playing with friends and smiling and just enjoying the game. It's fantastic growing up playing soccer in England.
As a keeper, Mark, how were you able to just overcome those nerves? Because it really does seem like, the keeper, there's so much responsibility knowing there are guys coming at you at 100 miles an hour and trying to get a ball across your forehead and across your body into a net behind you.
Yeah, I mean, they always say, goalkeepers are, you got to have a little screw loose, got to be a little bit crazy, and maybe I kind of, fall into that somewhat. But, for me, it was, crossing that line. You go on, as soon as you cross the white line, you kind of bring on that persona. And, my style of play was very laid back. I mean, you know me pretty well now. So the guy you see was pretty much the guy that played in goal, very laid back, calm. And I think that was a thing people liked about me because, corners and such and balls played in the box or whatever. I never tended to get flustered. I was just like very laid back and kind of let it go. And I never really felt those nerves. But and I always try to say to the kids I coach now, and my mentality was always it has to get past 10 players before it gets to me. So it's their job to stop it, and then when it does get to me, what I'll do whatever it takes to keep that ball out of the back of the net.
What about penalty kicks, Mark? Did you have to have that same mentality knowing it's just 1v1?
Oh, I loved penalty kicks because, again, I was just watching yesterday with the England women's team in the final, winning the Euros back to back. And, as a goalkeeper, there's no pressure. In theory, from 12 yards out, the striker should score. I mean, look at the size of the goal, look at the size of the goalkeeper. And as the years have evolved, the rules have changed as in a sense of, goalies aren't allowed off their line now. And you'll also see some goalies drop back now just behind the line so they can actually step forward. And for me, it was always one of my favorite parts of the game. I do remember one game in particular. I was away playing men's soccer. I started playing men's soccer about 16, 17. We were playing away a place called Bexhill, which is up near Brighton, south coast of England near Brighton. I saved two penalties. And the guys behind the goal was trying to get me to sign for the team. Do you know what I mean? I had a pretty good record of saving penalties. And my thing was I used to try and fake players out sort of thing. I wanted to kind of try and get him into a way where I pretended I was going one way, but I'd always dive the other. And 9 out of 10 times they would shoot where I wanted them to, and I was lucky enough to make the saves.
When did you get the idea, Mark, that you wanted to coach, and expand on your love in the soccer into a career?
So for me, that would be in at Charlie College. A coach called Steve Constantine. He's just left the Pakistani national team job. He was the guy. I mean, he was the guy that kind of inspired me. And I was at college, and it was you get to that stage, and he said to me, Mark, you've got a good knowledge of the game, good personality. I think you'd make a good coach. And I think that was maybe another way of saying, "Hey, Mark, you're not good enough to make it," which is fine. I wasn't. But for me, it's allowed me to kind of give back to because I never, like I mentioned earlier in the interview, like growing up, there wasn't many goalie coaches. So I do coaching, but I also want to do, goalie coaching as well. And, growing up, there was not much goalie coaching. So I wanted to kind of give back to the game and, through Steve Constantine. And, once he said that, I kind of started getting my badges. And yeah, that was my inspiration to get started.
Where did you find those first opportunities, Mark, to coach? Because I would imagine it was in England when you got your start coaching.
Yeah, yeah. So initially it would start where one of my friends, his older brother, coached a team called Wick United. And that was a team I also played for at the same time. But I used to help out and coach the younger kids. And then through the college course I was doing, we got to do some coaching as well. So that we did some coaching at schools and such like that. And then I did some stuff with Portsmouth football in the community, which is where you go into local schools and evening session and stuff like that. And that's how I got my first taste for coaching soccer.
And was it always the plan, Mark, to move to America to try to coach?
Honestly, I'd say if you look back at some of my uni and my college write-ups, it would say that I wanted to come out to America to coach. It was always something that kind of appealed to me. I thought there was going to be a lot. What I saw was opportunities. And a guy, I used to work for a company called Planet Sport, which I used to do phys ed. In England, you guys would call it phys ed lessons. In England, it's PE classes. and we'd go in there in elementary schools, primary schools in England. And when teachers were taking their PPA time, when they're doing their planning and preparation for the classes, we would go in there and run the PE lessons. And one of my bosses there, he actually had come over to America previously of a company called Challenger Sports, and that was the one that's the company I heard about, and then I did my research, and those are the guys I came out with first. But yeah, America was always a target of mine.
And where did that first opportunity come from, Mark, to move to America? And where did you end up when you first came over here?
Yeah, so the company again, Challenger Sports, and what the initial over here was I came out and did summer camps. So you'd come out for like 3 months and you'd run these summer camps. I was initially based in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's where our home base was, and at the time, I never knew where Charlotte, North Carolina. I didn't even know where I didn't know anywhere it was. So again, aging myself here, CD, but me and my mum got this encyclopedia out, got the map, and had to look on the map to find out where Charlotte, North Carolina was. But it turned out, it is one of the most. I mean, I don't know if you've been down there yourself, CD, but a fantastic city. This is going back to 2007, so it was kind of on the rise, and there was a lot of momentum going towards Charlotte at that time. And but through that, I got to work in like North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky. Maybe there's more, but that's all that comes to my head right now. But that's what opened the door for me, a 3-month contract. And I stayed on like 2 weeks afterwards to do like a little road trip. So I went up the East Coast. And a fun story for you is that, so at the end of that trip, the icing on the cake was going to watch David Beckham play for LA Galaxy versus, at the time, New York Metro Stars. So there was a season that Beckham came over here. And, leading up to that game, he got injured. So it was, oh my gosh, so like, one game he sat out. The next game he played like 20 minutes. The next game he played 45 minutes. And luckily for me, the game that I went to was the first 90 minutes he played in America. And it was fantastic. And it was at the Giant Stadium, packed house. I think it was 4-3, possibly to New York Metro Stars on that day. But honestly, it was a great way to end the summer.
What were your first impressions of America, Mark, when you first landed in Charlotte and then had the chance to explore a little bit outside of North Carolina?
I mean, you guys drive on the wrong side of the road was kind of weird. And I'd never driven in like automatic. Like in England, it's all gear stick, So like I remember getting off the plane, going into the parking lot of the hotel, and someone giving me a quick lesson how to drive like automatic. It was interesting. But my first impression honestly was everyone to me was so friendly. It was just like, it's for me, I know it probably sounds cheesy and that, but it was like I'd seen all this stuff in the movies, like America, in England it's like America, all this, and I got to see it for real, and I was just like, this place is fantastic. I've never seen food portions like that in my life. And it's the first Subway I ever had, so it was great. I mean, I had my first impressions, honestly, CD were great, and I think the first camp I went to was Ashe County. There's a one-man camp, not too far from Boone, ASU territory. And it was lovely. I had a one-man camp, and it was fantastic. I loved it.
And going back to that time, Mark, when you were talking about David Beckham, what were some of the first impressions that you saw with the MLS compared to what you're used to in the UK, obviously with the Premier League?
I mean, CD, honestly, not to be rude, but it was night and day. I think, you go back to 2007, I think it was night and day. It was just slow. It wasn't fun. And I don't mean to be rude, but it wasn't fun to watch. I mean, a level of play, it just wasn't good. But I think that was the moment that it just, Beckham just brought a whole level of interest to MLS. And let's fast forward, 2025. I mean, it's a fantastic league to watch. You've got players, the old mindset or the old thought was that MLS was like the retirement home for European players. come 35, 36, come over to America, pick up a paycheck and, you know, live by the beach. But what you're seeing now is not only young American players staying longer, you're also seeing Americans come back in their prime to play in MLS. And you're also getting international players, not just Europeans, but South Americans and, all different parts of the world coming over at their prime to play in the American MLS. And I think it's fantastic. And I think, just watching youth soccer now in America, the level has totally risen. So for me, being able to watch that in 2007 to where we are in 2025 is, it's a great to see the progression. I love it.
How do you think youth soccer has risen, Mark, to now compared to what you saw when you first landed here in 2007?
Well, I think, the number of qualified coaches, I think a lot more people are getting their badges now. I also think you're seeing potentially like second generation. So maybe they were young players when I first came over, but now they're adults and now they're coaching. I think you're seeing a lot more people who, like initially it was probably parents who just want to help their kids out, want to like kind of help them make sure they're playing soccer. But now you're having people that played the game, played at collegiate level, and now they're giving back into the game. For example, just use a real close one for me is our goalkeeper at Penn State New Kensington. I started coaching him when he was younger. He came to New Ken. He played at POS ODP, and then fast forward this year, he's coaching at Steel City, the club he used to play for. He came in as a goalie coach. He's currently this right now working the POS camp with the goalies, and then from this fall, he's going to be working with the foundation phase at Steel City. So guys like him are getting their badges, and they're kind of they're coming back into the game now. So I think that's really really helped, and I think the mindset's different. I think a lot more the volume of kids playing soccer now, and the safety aspect, that sort of stuff. I think soccer's a great game. Lots of touches, and I think people are seeing the benefits of the beautiful game.
And Mark, this is kind of a funny question. So, I assume that you called soccer football growing up, being in the UK. How was that transition like, having to switch to calling it soccer when you came over here to America?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say soccer when I was in England. I tell you that. Even when I go back now, it's called football. But when I first came over, it was kind of hard to make that adjustment. But then you get used to it. And I've kind of got used to being, if I'm talking to mates back, even I'm talking to mates back home about spelling, right? So if you say a position in soccer football is centre back, right? Well, if I'm spelling it to you, I'm going to spell centre CENTER. If I'm talking to my friends back in England, I've got to remember CENTRE. Little stuff like that I got, but yeah, it was different, a little bit different at first, but yeah. And I also feel like over here now, you're seeing a lot more people reference, soccer as football as the cultural influence comes over here now.
And before you came to Pittsburgh, Mark, what were some of those biggest lessons in your early years coaching in America that really set you up for success? We'll get to in a little bit with going to the high school ranks and then eventually the college ranks.
I mean, I think the big thing for me was getting time on the grass. Do you know what I mean? I feel like when I first came over here, and I was very lucky when I first came over here for Challenger. I had a lot of guys, and I was lucky enough to be put on some really good camps with some really good coaches that I could learn from. And like I said, you think about it, 5 days a week on the grass, coaching all the time. And then once I did the summer, I went to something called a CCT, which is a club trainer. And to explain that is, I was over here for like 9 months. So spring I would work. So in my case, I was working for a club called Derry Eagles in Derry, New Hampshire. I would then go in the summer, I'd go off and do the camps, and then I'd come back in the fall and go back to Derry Eagles. Now that was 5 days a week, coaching a couple hours a night, both teams and goalkeepers. And that really allowed me to get reps, repetition, learn from mistakes, watch the other guys, get feedback from players, get feedback from coaches. I then went to another place called Dover, New Jersey, Fantastic town, great soccer culture. Guys were playing soccer on the field before training. It was fantastic. And again, reps, learn from people. And then once you get all those reps and time on the grass, it's really held me in good stead. And also, I'll be honest with you, doing my licenses, getting my licenses. I've done my stuff back home, but getting my license, I've just finished my the highest goalie license in this country right now is the USSFC, and I just did that. I finished that in Kansas City. But it's learning and having that growth mindset, and I think that's something I'd say to players and coaches that I work with, have that growth mindset. Always look to grow. The second you close your mind off, that's when you stop developing.
Where did the opportunity first come about, Mark, for you to move to Pittsburgh and the Western PA area?
Yeah, I mean, it just so happened there was opportunities here, and I'd been doing some camps in the area, so I got to know a few people as well in the area, and that's how I started off with a club called AFFC, because I did a camp in the suburban YMCA in Murraysville, and I kind of met a few people, the host family I had. Their son played for AFFC, so I got the opportunity. And then I met a guy who's now been my boss since the OC for years, is Tom Overton. And he also got me the opportunity to start coaching high school soccer for Highlands girls.
And what were your first impressions of Pittsburgh and the Western PA area when you first started living here full time?
I'm gonna tell you now, CD. Pittsburgh, for me, is one of the most loveliest cities. Like I just like it. I like it. I like it. It's it's a big town, but it's got a small town vibe. Do you know what I mean? It's like not crazy. There's friends of mine live in Atlanta. It's like 10 lanes. I like to go to New York to visit, but that's too much for me. Pittsburgh has like especially now, easy access to England. I can just fly over direct. I love the Primanti sandwich. I had that when I first come to the Pittsburgh area. I love the fact that there's the sporting teams are there. And I also, from an adult's perspective, economically, I find Pittsburgh to be such an for me, I find to be such an affordable city as well. I really like it. And the people, blue collar, hard working people, and I love that mentality.
And I know, Mark, knowing you very well, that you also have really embraced the American side of sports, with American football, with the Steelers, and then Penn State football. And how have you embraced the other sports, that the U.S. has to provide other than soccer?
Well, I'll tell you now, I love hockey. And the Penguins, I love going to those games. Me and my wife, and her family, they're big hockey fans as well. They actually, her siblings and that go up to watch Penn State hockey. I've been up to a few games too, so I love watching that. I love the fast pace. I wish they had better chants. It's very like ball, defense, and all that sort of stuff. I want to be a bit more creative, CD. Do you know what I mean? Like they are in England. I also like basketball. I was very lucky when I was based up in Derry, New Hampshire. I went to a couple of Celtics games. And I was actually, the reason why I really fell in love with basketball was the year I was at Derry, New Hampshire was, the first year I was there, was the year that Celtics beat LA Lakers in the NBA championship. So I just, and part of that role is you stay with host families. And I just remember watching these playoff games and just I was like, man, this is, Ray Allen, Rondo, Paul Pierce, KG. And I fell in love with it. I just love the atmosphere, and it was fantastic. I like the sports.
Now, I know...
I don't like baseball. I'm not a fan of those, CD. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Now, I also know, Mark, that you also had a chance to attend a Penn State football game last year. So knowing how Penn State football games are in just the college football world, how is that like experiencing that for the first time?
I mean... That was, and then, I posted a picture on Instagram of my, where I was sat as well. And, there's nothing like it, CD. I mean, for example, in England, you go to a college soccer game. I mean, there's probably two men and a dog. There's no one really watching you. Do you know what I mean? So for me, that whole culture of, college football is like a professional event. And when we were there at the UCLA game, I think it was ESPN were there, game day, college game day.
Yes, yes, college
So
game day.
I saw their studios, saw that going on. At the time, my brother-in-law Dan, he was just graduating from Penn State, so we met him there as well. He was a season ticket holder. He sat with the guys there, and just sat where we were sat on behind the like behind the goal, I guess you want to call it, behind the post, whatever they're called. Um, but and was it the I think it was a whiteout game. I think it was a
Yes.
whiteout game or something like that. And just to sit back and just watch everyone just coordinate. It was honestly, CD, it was fantastic. And I love the atmosphere. I love, just the energy, and it was great. The whole day there was great. One of our players got recognized as well. But yeah, it was fantastic. I think that culture is great.
Who was the player that got recognized, Mark, and what was the recognition for?
That was Matt Kalupka. He was recognized as the USC. Well, no, what was he? That was another one. He was the he got that top award at the PSUAC, male student athlete. Like the male guy of the male athlete of the year. That was on top of his USC AA Division Two male athlete of the year too. So he got to go
Okay.
out at half time. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Wait, so did he have a chance to go onto the field? Or
Yeah,
was
he
he...
was on the field, yeah. So they did the presentation at half. I mean, say on the field, CD. They didn't really let him out of the end zone. But yeah, he was there, got presented, waved to the crowd. And then for the first half, before he went onto the field, he was sat near him and another player, Jeremy Mack. They were sat with me and my wife watching the game. It was fantastic. That's how we got tickets for the game, so it was great.
And you first got your feet wet in the high school ranks as an assistant coach at Franklin Regional High School in the local area here in Murraysville, PA. So, how did that opportunity come about, Mark? And what were some of your favorite memories and moments that you learned being a coach for the first time here in America in the high school ranks?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a totally different experience because like I said, in England, it's different. It's different. Like the sports, like we'd play on like a Wednesday afternoon, and maybe your parents come and watch, maybe. But I predominantly, sorry, just going back to my experience first. But I came from I went to an all boys school, and ours was predominantly a rugby school. So rugby had a game, all the schools there. Football has a game. Oh, yeah, nah, maybe not. And then I went to Franklin Regional. The home of CD. And, I got the opportunity because I was working for AFFC, Allegheny Force at the time. And the head coach for Franklin Regional was a guy called Simon Austin. And he was looking for a goalie coach. And yeah, I came in there and I actually ended up, I coached, the boys, girls, goalkeepers, and the middle school goalkeepers in the end. And it just got my footwork. It got me understanding. And then through that, the other assistant coach is a guy called Dave Henderson, who I was his best man at his wedding. He was the best man at my wedding, and we met at Franklin Regional. He ended up becoming my assistant coach at Highlands, and we're best friends to this day. Yeah, it was a great experience, and I learned a lot from seeing that.
Yeah, and moving over, Mark, like you just mentioned, when you became the head coach at Highlands High School. So, how was that feeling like for you in those years that you were at Highlands, knowing that you were the head coach? And what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned there as well?
I mean, it definitely taught me organization and to be prepared. And you have to make some tough decisions, and you have to have tough conversations. When you're assistant coach, you can be buddy buddy. You're normally that kind of like go between in some sense. When you're the head coach, everything's on you. You're making the decisions. You're dropping players, shall we say? You're making a decision on captains and tactics and etc. You have to make sure. I remember the first time I didn't realize you had to bring a roster. So no one told me I had to bring a roster. So I remember we went to a tournament. My first game was a tournament at Avonworth, and the guy was like, "Oh, have you got a roster?" And I was like, so I got one of the girls to write all the players' names on a piece of paper, and had to hand it to the referee. So yeah, that was definitely a lesson learned, and it taught me about the school and the culture. I loved it because they had theme nights. There was and it was just, and we had exchange students. And when we had like Aussie girls, we had Norwegians, we had Colombian players, and that was nice of a cultural experience. But yeah, watching, yeah, just for me, I learned so much about, the fans. Like the kids were getting really into it. The student section, they were cheering and they were doing like, dressing up, and it was fantastic experience.
And the time came in 2017 for you to go to the college ranks, which is where you are now at Penn State, New Kensington. So, how did the opportunity come about for you to go to New Ken? And was that a goal, Mark, when you came to America, getting to know the culture of American soccer to be a college head soccer coach?
It was something that appealed to me. And I remember I had a cup of coffee earlier at Penn State New Ken with my friend Jordan Valentine. So when I was head coach in Highlands, I also did a couple of sessions here and there, doing some goalie coaching. And that kind of, gave me an idea of what it was going to be like. And, I always had in the back of my eye, I was watching Penn State New Ken and seeing if openings would occur. And fortunately, everything aligned because I had left Highlands. And then I left Highlands, and then the AD was like, "Oh, Mark, can you help out at the middle school?" So I brought my brother-in-law and his friend in. So I kind of I was kind of there in the background helping out, organizing. And then after that season, 2000, I think January, end of 2017, early 2018, the opportunity arose. Had an interview there with our AD at the time, Megan, and Tracy, who was the assistant AD, and it was just a perfect storm. It was great. It was a great opportunity.
Entering into your first season in 2018, take us through that year, Mark, and what were some of those biggest lessons that you learned in your rookie year as a head college soccer coach in 2018?
I mean, the big thing for me was trying to get a staff, get an assistant coach. And then my first year, I had Dave Richmond, who at the club at the time was called Hotspurs, now it's Still City. So I knew him through that, and I got that. I had a good assistant coach. I was left with like three players. Then we had three players left over from the 2017 season. So I basically had to go out, and I just had to learn recruiting very, very fast. I was very lucky to pick up some very good players, Brady Brawns, Nolan John Garlow, and Ben Midlick, who were three players in particular who kind of helped take our program to the next level. There was a couple of lads on campus that I found. And for me, it was just trying to build the foundation of a culture and a program. And it was also taking the guys who were there previously and changing their mentality. Because previously it was kind of like, oh yeah, show up to practice if you want, no, whatever. And I had to get the buy-in of, no, you're going to be at practice. We're going to make you better players. And we're going to go for this. And we're going to build a program. We're going to build a culture. And I was very lucky that the guys who were there previously kind of, brought into it. And we had a good season. But I learned a lot in that first year about, organization, recruitment, schedule building, and yeah, just knowing the players.
How was that experience like, Mark, with having to learn recruiting, knowing, like you said, you had to learn it so fast, knowing that you, had to rebuild that roster?
Yeah, it was just, it's just all about full pedal on the metal. Just had to go for it. We're lucky at Penn State New Ken, there's a decent, right now, sort of with Art, Tyler, and Maria, there's a fantastic admissions team. And, before them, I was really working with the admissions team. Like I try to get as many people on campus, as many visits as I can. And again, we mentioned about coaching on the grass. That first year allowed me to gain reps of having meetings with players, having meetings with parents. A number of them slipped from my finger. A number of them didn't work out. But I learned from every meeting, and I learned from every recruit. And that was the big thing from that first year.
And fast forwarding to last season, Mark, the 2024 season, with you guys making history going to the USCAA National Tournament for the first time, even though you guys didn't have to go really that far, knowing that it was right here in Western Pennsylvania. So, with everything that, you have been through, Mark, here at Penn State New Kensington, how did it feel, to finally get that chance to play for a national championship when you guys played in the tournament last year?
Honestly, CD, it was fantastic because, like, I still, when we got knocked out of the semi-final, I felt that there was more left in the tank. There was more of the story to be written, and we managed to. I mean, I remember sitting there on the bid night. Got there fantastic. We got our foot in the door, and then, I mean, two things occurred before it started. Finn got injured. Finn Beffron, who was our All-American centre back. And then the day before, or maybe a couple of days before the tournament, Dylan Shaw got injured in practice, who was our second-team All-American right back. So then we got, a guy, Luke Guarini and Mickey Fleeson came in as freshmen starting. And they did fantastic. And, we had previously gone to Central Penn, and I kind of left all the starters at home, shall we say, and brought in, guys that had been coming off the bench in and out. I gave them a chance to play. Other players I brought in too. And they beat us 2-1, 3-1, I think it was, at their place. And then we got into the national championship, and, we got it back. I mean, Ethan, Carson scored as well. And then Ethan Krychek got the goal to get us back to 2-2. We lost in, I think it was the last 10 seconds of extra time. Devastating. But we learned from that. But the guys' heads never dropped. And even when we were down against Central Penn in the national championship, the guys' heads never dropped. And that tells you about the atmosphere, the mentality of the players. And then to go against Paul Smith from New York. And I remember we went 1-0 down pretty early. They came out all guns blazing, all loud. And I think our guys got a little bit intimidated. And I said to them after that goal, I was like, guys, it's smoke and mirrors. You have to just play the game. Don't worry about the noise. Just play the game. And then, Carson scored for us, and, Lenny scored that penalty. And then obviously, Jay Ireland to get that winning goal and make it through. It was, honestly, man, it was fantastic. And to be able to celebrate those guys and, finish the season like that, being the first time ever winning in a national tournament, it was great. And everyone was everyone's feeling fantastic after that tournament.
Was that your favorite moment, Mark, from all of your years at New Ken? That was one of the questions I had. I wasn't sure if there was another one that comes to mind.
I mean, yeah, I think that was probably that was a great moment of yeah. But honestly, I tell you another one that was a really good moment for me. So that was topic, but another moment I always remember, like Beaver were like our bogey team for a while. Like I couldn't beat him for the first couple of years, and then and it had to be Brady Braun to score the winning goal, but we scored maybe the last minute or so of the game. We got a corner, and Brady scored directly from the corner. And that was just that was a really good moment and we spoke at halftime. We had a few words, and the guys came out in second half and just absolutely, we played them off the field second half, and to get that, and again that would probably be, and then obviously making the PSUAC final for the first time in program history, to get the opportunity to play at Panzer Field, and for those guys to go up to main campus and walk around, experience it, see their facilities, see what it's like down there. Three big moments that stood out for me so far.
And what is the outlook for the team this year, Mark? And I guess you guys have started practicing already, knowing the season's right around the corner.
So we start August 18th is when the guys will probably move back in August 16th. We start August 18th, and we're lucky we got we lost Jake Guarini, Ryan Werzer, 4-year players, Jake Morgan, Wixie, Mason Wicks, and a couple other lads. But we managed to, keep the majority of the squad. And like I mentioned to you guys, guys like Mickey Flea and Luke Garini got a lot of time, and who was stepping up this year. And we've brought some very good players in. And I think the mentality of the guys is very good right now. Everyone's chomping at the bit to get back, and I would like to get back to Highmark Stadium again. It'd be nice, or Montour Junction. It'd be nice to go down there again with the lads.
And what are your main coaching philosophies, Mark, that you tried to input with your players for any of your players that come through your program at Penn State New Ken?
Well, I would say my thing is to kind of an open door policy and be honest is one thing. A player-centered approach, but also an approach that where you learn about the individual. And again, I'm just going to, and I use this whenever I talk about this. When I played in goal, I had a left back and I had a right back. The left back, Sam Pasquale, if you would shout at him, you might as well take him off. He was an arm round the shoulder guy, head up, blah, 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 and that worked for him. Whereas I had a right back who was called Josh Parsons, and if I would have put, I had to shout at him, and that motivated him. But the second he left the field, best of friends. You actually share the same birthday. So for me, a big thing about lads coming into, to Penn State New Ken is getting to know not just the player, but more importantly, getting to know the person. That's the key for me.
What is your favorite part, Mark, about coaching soccer?
Meeting new people, seeing different places, having the opportunity to play a small part in impacting people's lives.
That's all amazing, Mark. And then you also had something very notable happen to you last year when you became an American citizen in the spring of 2024. So for how long you've been here, Mark, in the decade-long time you have spent in your life here in America, how did it feel, to finally be recognized as an official American citizen?
CD, it was fantastic. It was great. I was nervous initially doing the 10 questions. I spent so long going over the 100 questions. But to be there at the ceremony, to have my American passport, have that piece of paper. I've had so many good memories here. England's always home. Chichester's my hometown. But now America has allowed me to have so many opportunities. My wife, my son, just had a son here now. He's going to be 6 months old next month. America's been great to me, has allowed me to have so many opportunities, see so many places, and to get that citizenship was just, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah, and then, mentioning, your family, Mark, including your son, Jude, how was that like balancing your family life with your coaching career?
Yeah, I mean, behind every good man, there's a great woman, and I have the best. Emily's my wife, and she's the best. I always thought she was the most beautiful person inside and out. And then seeing her with Jude now, you just realize she is just an extra special person. And that's key, having someone who's supportive. And she works at UPMC Hillman. And initially, when she was a nurse, she used to work on 7 till 7. So she had different shifts. She's also one of 7 siblings. So she has 2 twin brothers who are older than her. She was the next one. But then when the younger ones, I touched on Dan. Actually, 2 of them, Elise and Claire, I coached in high school. She helped raise, obviously her mum's working. She kind of helped raise them. And she's just used to, when you got 7 siblings, I mentioned, I'm sure they're going all over the place. And she's very chilled. She's very laid back. And she's just super supportive. And that's also, having her has been allowed me to have these opportunities. And now with Jude, I mean, it's teamwork, it's communication. And, my dream is to have the opportunity to go to the Lanza field, run over to the stands, grab Jude, and then go and celebrate winning the PSUAC championship of him. So I hope I get the opportunity this year to do that.
How long did it take for Jude to touch his first soccer ball?
He was born on the 8th. Probably we got home a couple of days later. So probably about definitely by Valentine's Day, you got a touch. I do have a little ball, and we have this musical soccer ball as well. And I brought him a number of jerseys and kits already. So he's got his England kits, he's got his Portsmouth kits. We watched the England women's game. He had a retro World Cup Italia '90 England jersey, which actually was the first jersey I ever got way back in the day. I remember I got it from a car boot sale. I got this England kit, and he was wearing an England retro shirt for the England women's game.
And if this has happened to you, Mark, have you ever coached any players, starting out, young in club and then would go on to coach them at either high school at Highlands or Franklin or at New Ken?
Geez, honestly, let's just go through a few players for you. So, Ben and Vincent Gigliotti, I met them in 2011 when I first moved. I was in like Indiana, PA area, and I just so happened I was in the White Township, and this group of lads were playing, and I started coaching them. They're from Punxsutawney. I coached them at that, and then they followed me. They played for me at Century, AFFC, and then they actually went to, when I was at Hotspurs, they came over there too, and then they both played for me. They were both 2+2. So Vincent came, and then Benny came. Kenton Knox, the one I mentioned earlier on, I've coached him at youth soccer. Now he's playing for Penn State New Ken. Louis, I coached him at Steel City. Ethan Grant. There's a number of players that I've been. Jake Grinney I met younger as well through Steel City. Jesse, Tanner. There's so many players. Seth. There's so many players I've had the opportunity, and I hope they've done that in a way because they want to have the Penn State education, but hopefully I impacted them when they were younger, that they want to do their next chapter and play for me again, the collegiate level.
Yeah, how has that been like for you, Mark, knowing that you had that list of players who you really got to see grow, starting off coaching them young, and then behold, they're playing for you at New Ken a few years later?
Honestly, CD, it's just so great to watch. First of all, you realize how quickly time flies, but to watch these guys, go from boys to young men. And again, we can touch on the players that they are, but more importantly, it's the man that they are becoming and the students they're becoming. We had 25 out of the 30 players this past semester were all conference academics. 15 were all Americans, and it's great for me to see these lads. A lot of these lads I've seen grow up, go out there, and a guy like Jake Garini, he's just got his degree. He's become a engineer now. Got a big boy job straight off the bat, so it's great to see these guys. And then right now we have, and you're invited to come because it'd be great to see you. We have an alumni game, August the 23rd. We have 35 players signed up, 35 players. And for me, it's just a great chance to, and I always chat to old players. A lot of them come back and watch us. And I think that's a sign of the culture that we created, that all these guys want to come back and play.
Yeah, that is all amazing, Mark. And, you mentioned a little earlier how you also had the chance to coach some of Emily's younger siblings as well. So how is that like coaching them, knowing that they're your in-laws now?
I know, right? It's crazy. Yeah. Honestly, I met her brother. He scored directly from a corner against the team I was coaching. But the girls, Elise and Claire, they were I think it was initially me and Emily started to date probably Elisa graduated, maybe Claire's senior year or something like that. So I think that's probably a different transition for her initially. But for me, again, like I say to her sister Claire, like she's now, she's got to be 26. She's a pharmacist. I first met her when she played in middle school, and to watch her grow into the person she is now. The other one, Elise, Elise is fantastic. We watched the England women's Euro final together. And it is amazing to think that I coached them, and now we're in-laws. And I actually got to play her other brothers, Mike. She got Mike, Nick, and Justin. I played with Nick and Justin, and I've coached with Mike.
Jeez, wow, that is all amazing, Mark. And
Yeah.
what are some of the main differences with coaching high school compared to coaching in college?
I think when I did it, I mean, I think now you have, it's obviously in college, it's that more you communicating with the parent, I'm sorry, the players, whereas high school is a little bit different. You obviously, you're talking a bit more to parents. Um, it's a little bit, you have to be a little bit more creative sometimes with training times. So we train at 7 a.m. And that's because no one, be honest with you, no one has class. Two reasons: no one has class at 7 a.m. and B, you get to find out who's really, really up for it. It's like hard to get out 5 days a week, 3 months or wherever it is, to 7 a.m. And that really helped us. But I think that was it. And, the distances and stuff like that. But, and the level of play definitely goes up at the collegiate level.
Now, I know a little while ago you also had the chance to switch into the commentary side of things when you did color commentary for a Duquesne match one time. Can you take us through how that experience was like and how did that opportunity come for you?
Well, fortunately, I know one of the coaches, James Fain, and they were looking for some commentators. So myself and Nick Baseglia, who was my Penn State Duquesne assistant, we went for it. And it was a game against LaSalle. And a small world is I knew the LaSalle head coach as well. So I got to chat to him before the game. But that and it was ESPN Plus, my first time. Go big or go home, Colin. But it gave me an opportunity to kind of learn the ropes, understand there's a lot more to, commentating. I knew a couple of parents who were watching the game. They liked my insight, because I try to give a bit of feedback, and I was talking about X, Y, and Z, and they liked that. I think it was nice if you know the game a little bit and you kind of give a few extra pointers. And then through that, it kind of got my, feet wet, shall we say. And then the last couple of years, I've been doing the commentary for Steel City as well, the first teams.
What were some of those extra things, Mark, that you were able to put in to your broadcast, knowing that you have that advantage of playing the game, knowing the game really well, obviously, since you're a coach?
Research. Research is key. The extra stuff I had to do was, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it properly. And, spending enough time around you as well. I see all the research you do about every single player, and that's what I've been doing is like I have a little book with me, very similar to what you do. You have the rosters. I try and find out some facts. I try and find out I get some stats. And, it's not just the 90 minutes of the game. If you really want to do it properly, you put a good few hours prepping. And that's the big thing I learned was the preparation of, I don't want to go out there and just waffle on about, I want to have some extra insight. I want to know the players. I want to know a bit more about the teams and be able to share that with the viewers. Because I think viewers, want to see more than hear more than just, yeah, CD passed it to Mark, Mark played it out wide. If you can add in, oh, hey, CD's older brother, Adam used to play collegiate soccer as well. He played for RMU, blah, blah, blah. And it's just nice. Hey, last week Colton scored the winning goal against LaSalle. So just, research was big for me.
And what is your biggest advice, Mark, for anybody who wants to join us working in a career in the sports industry?
Research, do some reps, learn from people. You definitely have to do your research. And again, for me, it's opportunities to, again, like I told you, I mentioned about a growth mindset. Learn from as many people. I get to stand next to you. I learn from you. I learn from what stuff you do. I learned from the guys I worked with at, Duquesne, the guys I worked with at Steel City. But the big thing is research. You have to have your research done.
And if you can pinpoint one moment, Mark, what is your most prized moment having a career in the sports industry as a soccer coach?
Oh my gosh, CD. Jeez. That is a big one.
I can understand how hard
yeah,
it would be with everything that you have done.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's just there's not one moment in particular I can think of. It's just, for me, it's just seeing people grow, seeing players, that goalkeeping is my passion as well. And just watching players make those big saves, watching players have that confidence. That for me is the big thing in coaching. That's just seeing people achieve things they might have not thought they thought they could. And maybe I played a small part in helping them.
Mark, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. You have meant so much to me in my career, and I'm so honored to call you a friend. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, CD.